Om Vakradunda
Om Vakradinda
Mahakaya
Mahakaya
Surya Koti
Suryakoti
Samaprabha
Samaprabha
Nirvignam
Nirvignam
Kuru Me
Guru Me
Deva
Deva
Sarvakaryeshu
Sarvakaryeshu
Sarvada
Sarvada
Saraswati
Saraswati
Namastubhyam
Namastubhyam
Varade
Varade
Kamarupini
Kamarupini
Vidyarambam
Vidyarambam
Karishyami
Karishyami
Siddhir
Siddhir
Bhavatu
Me
Me
Sada
Sada Gurur
Guru
Brahma Gurur
Brahma Guru
Vishnu
Vishnu
Gurur
Guru
Devo
Devo
Maheshwaraha
Maheshwaraha
Guru
Guru Sakshat
Sakshat
Param
Param
Brahma
Brahman Tasmai
Tasmai Shri
Shri
Gurave
Gurave
Namaha
Namaha Apar
Om
Karuna Sindhum Jnanadham Shantarupinam
Rupinam Shri
Shri Chandrasekhar
Chandrasekhara
Gurum Pranamami
Gurum Pranamami
Mudanvaham
Muktamaham
Yatkripalesha
Yakripalesha
Matrena Puman
Matrena
Purna
Puman Purna
Prajayate
Prajayate
Tam
Tam
Vande
Vande
Brahma
Brahma
Vidhuryam
Viduryam
Sadgurum
Sadgurum
Chandrasekharam
Chandrasekharam
Om Sahana Bhavatu
Bhavatu
Sahano
Sahano
Bhunakto
Bhunaktu Sahaviryam
Sahaviryam
Karavavahe
Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
ma
ma
Vidvishavahe
vidvishavahe.
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha.
Atah Shashtodhyayah
Atha Shashtodhyayah.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shloka number 21 Sukhamadyantikam yattad buddhi gragyamathindriyam
Sukhamadhyantikam yattat buddhigrahyamathindriyam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam stitaschalati tattvataha
Vethi yatra na chaivayam stithāścalati tattvataha.
Atyantikam Sukham Yat Tat Buddhigrahyam, and it is Atindriyam. We saw this shloka. The from the 20th shloka onwards, the absorption of oneself in oneself, unto oneself, is talked about. That is samadhi, absorption of the mind. Like in the previous shloka, yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Yoga sevaya chittam yatra niruddham bhavati. Uparamate chittam. Yatra chaiva atmanam, yatra chaiva iva atmana atmanam pashyati, atmani tushyati. Absorption of the mind. The mind, when it is mastered by the practice of this yoga seva, meditation, and abides, absorbs in Atma, seeing oneself by oneself, one rejoices in oneself. It is absorbed in Atma. It dwells in Atma. Samadhi. This is contemplation of Atma. Still the previous shloka. Yunjato yogam atmanaha. Atmanaha yogam. That is what is talked about all this. Atmanaha yogam, samadhi. Then the second, 20th shloka, then the 21st shloka. Atyantikam sukhat. Sukham, which one recognizes. Atyantikam sukham, which is Atyantikam, which is not limited, which is means Swarupam Ityartaha. And that is Buddhigrahyam. It is Buddhigrahyam, Atindriyam. It is not Vishaya, therefore sense, it is not Vishayananda, therefore it is Atindriyam, beyond sense perception. And it is known by the intellect because it is knowledge. Atma is Ananda Swarupaha, that is to be known. Therefore, Buddhigrahyam. And Stitaha Charati, Tatvataha, Yatra, absorbed in which, rooted in which the mind of a person doesn't move away from it. So that is Samadhi. And we are reading them here. The last class we saw the vritti, about vritti we are discussing. Knowledge, any knowledge happens only in the mind, and the knowledge in the form of the vritti. So knowledge, how the knowledge of an object is produced. One is by the two steps involved, vritti vyapti and phala vyapti. An object, the object of a knowledge is first, it is not known, therefore it is covered by avarana, it is covered, that is covered, ajnanam covers, therefore avarana shakti. So vritti vyapti means the avaranam, the covering is removed. The vritti from the vritti, the thoughts, the envelopes, the object whose knowledge is to be gained. That is vritti vyapti. And the phalam, the result, and the vritti vyapti, the result is phala vyapti. Phala vyapti is the knowledge, that is the object which is covered by the vritti. Now the avaranam, the ajnanam is removed by vritti vyapti, and it is illuminated in the chitta, and the object is gained. The two processes, this is called vritti vyapti and phala vyapti. Two processes happen simultaneously in recognizing any object. Vritti vyapti, phala vyapti. Vritti enveloping the object. Vritti enveloping the object which is covered, covering due to ajnanam, the concealing power, the concealing shakti, the avarana which is there, that is removed by vritti vyapti. And the object is reflected, the vritti which is reflected in the chit avasa, that is phala vyapti. Now, this is how the knowledge of any object takes place. Knowledge takes place only in the antakaranam, in the form of the vritti. So that's a vritti, it pervades the object, envelops the object, thereby removing the avaranam, the veiling power, concealing power, that is vritti vyapti. Pervasion of object by antakarana vritti, that is vritti vyapti. Then that is vritti vyapti, that is reflected in the antakaranam, chidavasa. The object which is pervaded by the vritti is pervaded by chaitanyam in the antakaranam, that is phala vyapti. So by vritti vyapti, avarana associated with the object is removed. And by phala vyapti, the chidavasa and the antakarana pervades the object and thereby illumines the object. The knowledge of the object takes place. This is vritti vyapti, phala vyapti. This is with regard to any object. Pervasion of object by antakarana vritti, that is vritti vyapti, which removes avaranam. Phala vyapti is pervasion of the vritti by the chidabhasa, chaitanya, by which the object is recognized. That is phala vyapti. So these two things are required to know in any object. But in the case of Atma, there is no object because it is myself. Vritti, the thought, happens in the antakaranam, the thought related to Atma, and that is pervaded vritti, vyapti. The vritti vyapti happens, but pala vyapti, pala is with regard to any object. But here the object of the thought is Atma. So therefore, the avaranam covering the Atma is removed by vritti vyapti. Once it is removed, the Atma shines by itself. There is no pala vyapti. Like in the case of, if you take the sun, once the clouds are removed, the sun shines. You don't require anything to illumine the sun. Sun shines by itself. Only the effort is involved in removing the ajnanam. So therefore, avaranam is removed by vritti vyapti, and there is no pala vyapti. Pala vyapti is with regard only to the objects other than Atma. So, since Atma shines by itself, there is no pala vyapti. There is no pervasion of the object vritti by the antakaranam. So, therefore, pala vyapti is not there, only vritti vyapti, only ajnana nivritti. That is by vritti vyapti. Once ajnanam is removed, then the knowledge, then that Atma which shines by itself, because ajnanam which was covering, that is removed by jnana vritti, that is vritti vyapti. Jnana vritti, the knowledge regarding Atma, which is the knowledge in the form of the words about Atma is heard at the time of Shravanam. So therefore, that removes the ajnanam, the veiling, the concealment, that is vritti vyapti. What about the pala vyapti? Pala vyapti, there is no pala vyapti, because once ajnanam is removed, vritti vyapti is required only to remove the ajnanam. Then Atma Sakshi Chaitanyam shines by itself. There is no pala vyapti. That is what is explained in this paragraph which we saw some time before. So here is explained. The recognition of the Swarupa of Atma, there is only one operation involved. That operation is vritti vyapti. Whereas in the objectification of a pot, any object, there are two operations, vritti vyapti and pala vyapti. One operation is a vritti, assuming the form of a pot, that's called vritti vyapti. Vyapti means pervasion of the object pot by the vritti. Then second operation is recognition of the vritti, that recognition in the antakaram, in the chidabhasa, that way recognizing the pot. These are the two. Vritti, assuming the form of the pot, is vritti vyapti, and recognition of the pot vritti, gata vritti. These are the two steps. That is pala vyapti, two steps involved in recognizing the pot or any object. One is the objectification of the object, that is vritti. Other is the recognition of the vritti. Two steps are involved in knowing an object. Any object is known by in these two steps. These two happen so quickly, we cannot distinguish. So objectification of the object, that is possible only by the vritti, and the recognition of the vritti, that is called palavyapti. The objectifying vritti is recognized by another vritti, which is a drashta, the seer. The object which is objectified by the vritti is recognized by the seer, the another vritti, the seer, Atma Chaitanyam, the knower. This I thought, aham vritti, assuming the status of knower, recognized as an object through the vritti, Gatavati therefore says, this is a gata, known to whom? To the knower. Gata doesn't say it to itself, I am a gata, this is a gata. This is a pot. Pot vritti happens when the vritti covers the pot. Objectification of the object by vritti, vyapti, and the object is known to the knower, that is recognition of the vritti, that is palavyapti. That's how the knowledge takes place. Whereas in the case of Atma, it is not. Any piece of knowledge where there is this peculiar connection, Atma and Atma Sambandha, between the self, the knower, you, and the object that is objectified by that knower, takes place by these two operations. That is, the object is objectified by the vritti, number one, and you cognize the vritti. You recognize the vritti, number two. It's called palavyapti. That is, we can say this is a pot, but can you say this is Atma? For that, Atma has to be an object. For to say this is a pot, you are there. Drashta, the seer is there. To say this is Atma, who is there? Who says that? Atma says Atma is? Cannot be. So I am the one who has to say it. And if it were to be so, then the self Atma would become an object of self who is objectifying itself. That is not possible. If Atma can objectify itself, then it will become an Atma, not Atma, just like any other object of knowledge. Therefore, objectification of the vritti, that alone happens, and you cognize the vritti as yourself, as myself. So it is unlike the pot vritti. Therefore, there is no cognition of the vritti, just objectification that itself removes the avaranam and the knowledge takes place. Therefore, there is only vritti vyapti, no palavyapti. That is the difference between object knowledge and self-knowledge. Self-knowledge, therefore, self-knowledge involves only removal of avaranam. Whereas any object knowledge involves removal of avaranam and recognizing the vritti, corresponding vritti by the seer, the knower. Here for the knower, the known, what is to be known is the knower itself. The knower cannot objectify itself. Therefore, the second operation doesn't take place. Not there. Seeing Atma is different than seeing an object. Therefore, when we say seeing Atma, Pashyan Atman Dushyati Pashyan, what is it Pashyan? It is not like seeing an object. Therefore, it is different from seeing an object. Seeing an object, recognizing an object involves two steps, whereas recognizing an Atma involves only one step. Only the avarana has to be removed. Objectification of the vritti, and there is no cognition of that vritti because the object of cognition is Atma. It cannot objectify itself. So therefore, there is no, that's called, technically we say palavyapti, not there. Naturally, when Krishna said seeing Atma in the last shloka, some difference was definitely implied. The difference is that the number of operations involved, that is what Pashyan Atmani Tushyati in the last shloka, Pashyan Atmani 20th shloka. Yatra Chaivatmanatmanam Pashyan Atmani Tushyati, the Bhagavan said. Therefore, number of operations involved, that there must be difference. Seeing Atma implies only one operation. There is no second operation at all. What is the second operation? Palavyapti. Not at all. It is not there. As there is when one sees an object. In the case of an object, two operations are involved. Whereas in the case of Atma, there are no two operations, only one operation. Only the first operation is there. What is that operation? The vritti which objectifies Atma. Here we have to note objectifying Atma is not that Atma objectify, vritti objectify Atma like vritti objectifying a pot. Here the vritti objectifies the Atma vritti, jnana vritti. The words of the Shruti, which occurs in the Antakarnam, and that is objectified by the mind, vritti. So the vritti that objectifies Atma, that assumes the very form of Atma. If I say Atma is pure consciousness, Kevala Chaitanyam, Shuddha Chaitanyam, and the recognition of this fact takes place, that recognition implies the vritti assumes the very form of consciousness. Like in the case of the object, the vritti assumes the form of the object. Similarly, the vritti assumes the very form of consciousness, and there is no other object involved. Whereas in the case of object, the vritti and the object is involved. But here, vritti assumes the very form of the consciousness. Therefore, second operation not there. That particular form destroys ignorance. Vritti, assuming the form of consciousness, removes the avaranam with reference to the swarupa of the Atma and then disappears. This then is the only operation that takes place, meaning that there is no second operation in the form of recognition. So first is objectification, that is called vritti vyapti. Second one is recognition. The recognition is not there. Who is there to recognize I am Atma? Vritti vyapti is enough to know. Vritti vyapti removes ajnanam with regard to Atma. And who recognizes that? There is no recognition. Because it is you, there is no second thing involved. Therefore, second operation in the form of recognition not involved. This is Atma as there is in the cognition of other objects. So there is no such, this is Atma, we cannot say, this is pot, we can say, this is a pot, this is a mat, this is a cot. But what about this is Atma? No, there is no recognition. The one operation that does take place is only with reference to one's confusion about oneself. The self-ignorance was there, Atma Jnanam, that is removed. And then no new Jnanam takes place. Already Jnanam is there, which is covered by Avaranam, which is covered by Avarana. Avarana is just covered, and that is removal of covering by the words of the Shastra. That is the only operation takes place. Avarana Nivritti alone, that is by Jnana Vritti. So Ajnana with regard to Atma is removed. When Ajnanam goes away, like the sun, it shines, Atma shines. So there is no need for recognition of that by another vritti, like in the case of an object. That is what here says. The one operation that does take place is only with reference to one's confusion about oneself, the self-ignorance that was there. This ignorance is destroyed by the vritti. This is what happens in self-knowledge. In knowing the self, more of which detail we'll see later. What does a wise person does? What does a wise person have to rejoice over? Generally, a person rejoices only when he or she has something over which to rejoice something other than knowing Atma. Some reveling situation is usually there for any rejoicing to take place. But what is there for a person who is discussed in the shloka to rejoice over? It is the recognition of the absolute happiness, Atyantikam Sukham, Swarupa Sukham. That is one's own nature. The recognition by the intellect. Because Jnanam happens, therefore, intellect, the recognition by the intellect, and that is beyond sense perception. Sukham Atyantikam tat buddhigrahyam atindriyam. Atyantika Sukham, Shankaracharya explains in his commentary, is a Sukha which is absolute. Absolute means it is not Vishayananda. It means it is Swarupa ityartaha. Swarupa Sukham, the nature of Atma. That is Sachit Anandaha, Anantaha eva Anandaha, Purnattam ityartaha. A happiness that is the nature of oneself. Swarupa Sukha. They speak that it has nothing to do with the vritti in reality. It is a particular vritti, no doubt, but it is not born out of a particular condition external to oneself. That is Swarupa. The word Atmanam mentioned in the previous shloka is converted here into Atyantika Sukham. Seeing the self is recognizing the self, Swarupa Sukha, as Swarupa Sukha, whose nature is of absolute happiness, Atyantika Sukham. And this recognition takes place in the intellect, in the buddhi alone. At the same time, it is beyond sense perception. It is not available for sense organs because sense organs can perceive only sense objects, and the ananda which are experienced through the sense objects or Vishayananda which are not Atyantika, which are limited. Therefore, and here it is agocharam, it is atindriya Vishaya Atma, which is oneself. Therefore, it is Swarupa. It is takes place in the buddhi, at the same time not available for sense organs. Why buddhi? Because jnanam. Jnanam happens only in the buddhi. Therefore, buddhi gragyam. The words of the Shastra produces knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge in the buddhi, and that removes the ajnanam, the avaranam, removal of that. That is the objectification of the vritti by the chaitanyam, that is vritti jnana. That removes ajnana, and removal of avaranam, ajnanam, implies removal of ajnanam implies removal of ajnanam is what the operation is. It's what the operation, the Shastra, the words of the Shastra does. Because samsara is due to ajnanam. Therefore, ajnana nivritti is samsara nivritti moksha. Therefore, only ajnana nivritti is involved. There is no new gaining. So, therefore, palavyapti, second operation being not there. So, therefore it is atindriya. With regard to the objects of sense perception, there will be phalam, there will be object, therefore there is a certain recognition of the vritti with regard to sense objects. But here it is atindriya. So therefore there is no phala, therefore it is atindriya. But all are buddhi meva, whether it is knowledge of the self or object knowledge, all are buddhi meva. Manasa eva veditavyaha, as Katha Upanishad says. Samskrita manasa eva veditavyaha atma. At the same time, it is agocharam, it is atindriyam. The difference between absolute sukha and relative sukha. Absolute sukha is atyantikam, relative sukha is all the Vishayanandas. The atyantika sukha, otherwise it is atma sukha because it is swarupa of the atma. Atma, which is aparichinnaha, which is anantaha, purnaha, therefore the sukham has to be atyantikam, not subject to limitation, that is atyantikam. Therefore, swarupa of atma, atma sukha is something quite different from the pleasure you pick up because of a sense object or a situation, Vishaya sukha. Vishaya means sense objects and the sense organs, the interaction between them and the resultant pleasure, the resultant sukha experienced by the person because of the interaction. That is Vishaya sukha. Both Atma sukha and Vishaya sukha, both are recognized by the buddhi alone. Buddhi gragya meva. There is no nasal sukham or other sukham that is not recognized by the buddhi. A sukha born out of hearing something pleasant, for example, is always inside, not outside. There is also a sukha born of having solved a problem or riddle for yourself, the kind of happiness that causes you to say eureka, born of some recognition or a piece of knowledge. This is vidya sukham, sukha born of knowledge, vidya sukha. There's a clarity there, which, to use the language of the Gita, increases your sattva disposition. This heightened sattva makes the mind more composed, giving rise to a shanta antakaranam. Because knowledge and sattva go together, and that is a sukha. Thus, whenever you pick up a piece of knowledge, no matter how simple or complex, there is some sukha, what we call vidya sukha. But the sukha that one picks up, a piece of knowledge, is still a relative sukha, whether it is Vishya sukha or vidya sukha. Any sukha is relative only because it is subject to change. A challenge is met successfully when and sukha is discovered, then it is gone. It stays only for a short time. If the sukha was the result of unraveling a few knots in the tangled ball of wool, you pick up the yarn again and begin unraveling some more to gain some more sukha. There is also some Vishaya sukha, a sukha born out of fulfilling a desire for a particular object and the experience thereof. An object of desire brings about sukha in different degrees. Just the sight of it brings about certain sukham. Going to it or experiencing it brings more sukha. Therefore, we have classification. In fact, moda, pramoda, priya moda, pramoda. There are levels or degrees of Vishaya sukha. Everyone has this kind of sukha, even a cat or a dog. Whereas vidya sukha is only for human beings. So whether it is vidya sukha or Vishaya sukha, they are parichinnameva, they are apurnameva. Vidya sukha includes any accomplishment, and Vishaya sukha implies a certain situational gain in terms of a desire fulfilled. There is also the sukha born of yoga. Yoga includes all the prayers and meditation, in which there is certain sukha. Pranayama, etc., also can bring about some sukha. Thus, there are different kinds of sukha: Vishaya sukha, Vidya sukha, Yoga sukha. And Vidya sukha and Vishaya sukha are experienced by everyone, whereas Yoga sukha is experienced by a karma yogi, a prayerful person, a devotee. Because of the person's maturity, a certain sukha is the seat of meditation. There is sukham, discipline, health, and so on. Bring about a certain sukha, a comfort, a satisfaction, all of which is implied by Yoga sukha. Then there is a fourth sukha called Turiya sukha, which doesn't depend on any gain, accomplishment, or anything. It is not born out of any particular piece of knowledge that you discover or any object that you gain. It is just a recognition of yourself alone, because of which there is sukham. This sukha is sukha mentioned by Bhagavan Krishna in the Loka Atyantika Sukham. It is Atyantika Sukham, absolute Sukham, that is also recognized by the intellect, Buddhi Grahya, and is beyond sense perception, Atindriyamiti. The Sukha that is yourself. This is where people sometimes commit mistakes. Atindriya Sukha means that Sukha is not due to sense perception. At the same time, every Sukha is recognized by the Buddhi alone, Buddhi Grahya Meva. Vishaya Sukha, Vidya Sukha, and Yoga Sukha all are Buddhi Grahya, but not Atindriya. Whereas this Atma Sukha is, this Absolute Sukha is Buddhi Grahya, but also Atindriya, meaning that it is not due to any external situation or internal condition. Vishaya Sukha depends on external situation and internal situation. Vidya Sukha also, Yoga Sukha also, but this Sukha is which is this, it is not, it is not due to Indriya, therefore Atindriya, and it is Buddhi Grahya. Yoga Sukha also is not born of an external situation, it is born of internal situation, while Vishaya Sukha is the form of external situations only. But the Sukha, what Bhagavan is talking about here, is not born of anything, it is oneself, it is yourself, Atyantika. People naturally want to know what is this Sukha is born of, what is this Sukha is born of, and how can be brought into being. But this concept of Sukha being born is due to ignorance. This concept, this Sukha is not born, it is Swarupa Sukha. With Swarupa Sukha, how it can be born in a particular time, particular place. It is a samsari's approach, an approach of the ignorant and non-discriminating person. Therefore, we have to be very careful here. Absolute Sukha is Buddhi Grahya. At the same time, Atindriya, which means it has nothing to do with sense perception or anything. It is just oneself. When the person, the meditator, the seeker, comes to recognize the Swarupa Atma, Yatra Veti Atmanam Atmana, what happens to that person? He or she doesn't slip away from the truth. The truth of Atma is absolute happiness, Atyantikam Sukham, Tattvataha na chalati, Eti Yatra Shivayam, Stitas Chalati na Tattvataha. Here, Tattva means Swarupa, the essential nature of a thing, as expressed by the suffix ness, as expressed by the suffix ness. There is no appropriate word in English for Swarupa. Here, Tattva is a Swarupa, and Swarupa of Atma is Atyantika Sukham, which is free from any form of limitations. Purna Swarupa, from this the person never moves away na chalati. Having discovered Atma as oneself, therefore he doesn't move away, slip away from this Sukham. The difference between recognition and experience. This recognition, Veti Janati, that is the recognition, it marks the difference between ordinary yoga, meaning Ashtanga yoga, what we are talking about here, Jnana yoga. You must know this well and not confuse this recognition with the samadhi of Ashtanga yoga. Therefore, samadhi of Ashtanga yoga, and here the yoga what we are talking about is different. Ashtanga yoga is a discipline which has its own place in preparing the mind for knowledge to take place. Ashtanga yoga as a means one can take up for preparing the mind, all the steps which are involved. For this reason, you should not think of it as useless or anything. Ashtanga yoga is a great discipline, but if it is not understood as such, there can naturally be confusion between it and the knowledge of oneself, Atmajnana, which is the ultimate end that freedom that everyone seeks. There is a confusion prevalent about this, that's why it is explained here. Ashtanga yoga, which is the 8th step, is samadhi. The samadhi talks about experience. The samadhi that Ashtanga talks about is in terms of experience. When where experience is involved, there would be Dvaitam. So, and here it's a recognition in Advaita. It is oneself. That is experience. In fact, it is Nitya Anubhava. It is Aparoksha Anubhava. Aparoksha Anubhuti. That is why we say Aparoksha Anubhuti. Samadhi that Ashtanga Yoga talks about is in terms of experience. In fact, if as a samsara you have to accomplish anything in this world, that is in the world of samsara. Samadhi is the greatest accomplishment experientially. Samadhi is the greatest accomplishment experientially. It is experiential. In this sense, Ashtanga Yoga has the last word in terms of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a state of absorption where there is no second thing at all. The knower, the known, and the instrument of knowledge, all the three of them, Jnata, Jneyam, and Jnanam. Jnana means the instrument of knowledge. All these coalesce into one experience lasting for a length of time. They resolve, and there is one experience, one which is last for a length of time. Although it doesn't take away samsara, it is definitely the last word in samsara. It doesn't take away samsara because samadhi, no pramanam, therefore no knowledge takes place. No knowledge about Atma. The avaranam is not removed, ajnanam is not removed. But the knower, known, and the instrument of knowledge, that is jnanam, all these three are they resolved. And there is an experience. And that experience is samsarika experience only. It is therefore it is highest experience in samsara which one can gain. Nirvikalpa samadhi, when we say it is the opposite of deep sleep. Nirvikalpa samadhi, what they say, where in deep sleep there is nirvikalpa already, meaning that known knowledge division is not there. In deep sleep there is nirvikalpa. Vikalpa means division. Nirvikalpa means no division. So in sleep there is no division. There is no knower known knowledge. In sleep. Similarly in the nirvikalpa samadhi also. But in the nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind is awake, whereas in sleep the mind is not awake. That is the difference. Unlike in deep sleep, in the nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind is awake. Where the mind is in deep sleep, the mind is sleeping. But in both cases, in sushupti avastha, there is ajnanam. In nirvikalpa samadhi avastha also there is ajnanam. Ajnanam not removed because shavanam not done. This person is a yogi person following yoga, this philosophy, yoga, discipline of yoga. There is no shavanam, mananam, and nidhyasanam. So therefore, ajnana will be there in both cases, in sleep as well as in samadhi. Samadhi is achieved by practice. So he has done practice, therefore he has gained samadhi. In both cases, there is ajnanam. The difference being that when the mind is asleep, there is no vritti. Whereas in the nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind is awake, meaning there is vritti. Therefore, the greatest thing you can have in life is nirvikalpa samadhi, which is why it is the greatest hooker also. Best people, because it is the last thing that you can think of accomplishing in samsara, in your life, here in this world. Now, experience always as an end. So this very famous the confusion or the problem with regard to samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi and yes, moksha. That is talked about here. We will continue this in next class. Important topic. Nirvikalpa samadhi doesn't produce jnanam, therefore moksha. It is an experience, an highest experience which one can have in the which one can have while living the Dvaita Prapancha. There is no knowledge, and therefore there is no moksha also. Like in Sushupti Avastha, one experiences Ananda, similarly in Nirvikalpa Samadhi also one experiences Ananda. Unless the knowledge is there, Nirvikalpa Samadhi is like the Avastha, Sushupti Avastha, it's Avastha where when one experiences Ananda, not Surupananda. Here it is, because there is no division, therefore there is some Ananda. When backed up by Jnanam, the person enters Samadhi. That is different. A person, a Jnani entering into Nirvikalpa Samadhi will come out as a Jnani. Whereas a Jnani entering into Nirvikalpa Samadhi will emerge out from Nirvikalpa Samadhi as an Ajnani only. Because Nirvikalpa Samadhi do not produce moksha. Doesn't produce moksha. Nirvikalpa Samadhi for an Ajnani Like Sushupti, it's an experience. Because it is an experience, therefore it will come to an end. That is a topic which we will see in this class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Dhanyavadaha.